Bringing you conversations by Radio 537.
This is to the girl who never understood why her family refused to believe her truth. This is to the little girl who never understood why the community embraced the accused. This is to the little girl who was aggressively undressed, brutally bruised, snatched off her choice to give her jewels to who she would later choose. This is to the girl who never understood why her uncle grabbed something he never groomed. This is to the girl who was numb and confused, why her own flesh and blood led her to bleed in the dark room. This is to the little girl who grew as a woman, but was still sufficiently consumed from the agony of aiding her own wounds. This is to the girl who felt that she was at the center of everything, but at the edge of it all, understood pain to the core, the same way her soul understands the echoes of silence, drowning the sounds of her sanity. When the chatter stops and when the crowd departs, she's back to fighting gravity to ease the drop. I'm sorry. With the men who never grew as boys, conniving cavemen who condemned themselves in cages with fantasies of the little boys being cradled, cared for and carried. We compromise character for praises. We are accustomed to comparison. We spend money we don't have to impress people we don't like. We're the men who never grew as boys. We flee with friends because misery loves company. We feed the flesh. How else do you expect us to be brave in the presence of sobriety? We mask symptoms of insecurity to conceal the self-distorted images. This is to the boys trapped in manly bodies who were told to man up way before they could sit up. This is to the boys trapped in manly bodies who were told to run way before they could crawl. This is to the boys trapped in manly bodies who were told to always make the first move with fragile knees, told to provide way before they had the grip to receive. This is to the boys who were told to believe anything and everything that they can see. This is to the boys trapped in manly bodies who wept out of their mothers' wombs but were still told never to cry. This is to the boys trapped in manly bodies who were told to form fists way before they could wave goodbye. This is to the boys that died from the infestation of watching older men define masculinity by excess sexual orientation. This is to the young boys who are inclined to traditional rituals that blur the lines between initiation schools and guilty conscience extractions. This is to the boy who became part of the generation of men who lead women to fall in love whilst they leap and lust and fall asleep. This is to the generation of men who match their shoes to their shirt, but not their words to their actions. This is to the generation of men who protect their reputations over taking responsibility of the lives of women they've ruined. This is to the generation of men who are fixated in muscle exercise and not so much the growth of the mind, fascinated by muscular proportions, but indoctrinated by patently pathetic principles. They replace purpose with pleasure. They disguise erotic appetites with rehearsed pickup lines. They charm all day, but they cry most nights. Domiciled on porn sites. That's why they protrude permission and they take what they can't have to ease the part of themselves that fears being seen as less like men. We were pressured to pursue men power way before we could harness boy power. The corpse of the young boy is decomposing. We are suffocating from our own pollution. That's why they call us trash. We avoid proximity. It reeks when we smile, and we die way before we commit suicide. So to the little girl, I apologize. I apologize.
In the situation, Unako, of us, saying that, okay, this like in the situation of us as females, do you feel ukbana women have given men any comfort level to be able to speak openly about these things without, because I think, bana, more than anything, this is an issue of brokenness. And as much as the numbers are telling us that it's mostly gender based, but we do understand and not ignorant to the fact that it's a brokenness in both genders, and it's a brokenness that we need to acknowledge. And for us to be able to move forward, we need to understand that it's not a one-sided thing, even though we are experiencing all these things, but it's a matter of bana sijonge amacala omabini and figure out bana classically now, how then do we move forward. So I just like the things that you've touched on, and I just want to speak about kule part yobana, do you feel that as a man in this time and in this society, there's much healing that still needs to happen with regards to females actually coming closer to men that are good and intentional about these conversations? Do you feel like they have a comfort level?
That's right. I hear you, sister. Thank you for your question. And as much as you say, I hear that you're saying, it's one-sided, and I agree with that, because vulnerability has been so strongly associated with women more than men. And the thing is, what women don't understand or what women don't know is that men can be gravely vulnerable. Men can be very emotional. I know, I've been in circles with men. The thing is, the difference is that so much attention has been fixated on the emotions of women and how weak they are and how emotional and how gullible they can be, and how reactive they can be. But nobody looks at men, and no vulnerable man wants to be seen and noticed that they are vulnerable. And I mean, we could all collectively agree that there's some relief in speaking and voicing out your opinion or your pain. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't doubt as well that the reason why men die younger, it's not because of these reckless activities that we partake in. It's because of repression. It's because we repress so much. I mean, there are things. It's like a very practical example is that when a woman feels something, she'll come and talk to you. Talk to the girls, guys, DMCs, and then they'll start talking over things, and we don't do that. You don't like what a brother did within your crew, you just keep quiet. So many men are dying silently
inside. So
many men are dying quietly, and nobody sees this. And the thing is, they chant that women are emotional to sort of defer that attention from coming to them.
Two things.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Two things.
That's why. Yeah.
Sorry. Go on. Let me not cut you.
Yeah. That is why men would rather deal with problems with physical means. That is why they're resolute to, I'd rather show you what I can do, or I'll solve this issue by beating you up, or I'll publicly talk about this thing and not personally. If I've got a problem with him, I'll just post quotes here and there to avoid dealing with the real issue, to avoid dealing with myself. And I remember this is a line I omitted in the poem, that we change partners to avoid changing ourselves. We insult people, we mock, we arbitrate on situations where we're not even wanted, to avoid changing the dying man, to avoid
So what you're basically saying is that it is just, it's like the female has been like there's been just an exaggeration of the emotions and vulnerability of females, to the extent that it's as if it doesn't exist in men. And I think this is what you mean when you say that it's now even difficult for men to be in that vulnerable position of actually speaking out about how they feel about things, right? And it's crazy because it goes back to what you were saying before, Bana. It's all based on wrong ideas, wrong definitions of things, wrong definitions even about what manhood is in this day and age. And I do think that it's something that sonke we need to look inside ourselves, and we need to realize, Dobana, at some point, as a man, as a woman, it also comes down to a point, but sometimes we like to look outside even for toxic. Gandhi, it's also it's also sometimes a matter of also facing ourselves, and I think this is the struggle for men, because facing yourself requires you to actually acknowledge, Bana, you have toxic traits, and acknowledging that requires transition, requires change. And that is the difficult thing, because of your ego kind of just arrests you and has you thinking, Bana, if you let go of this facade of manhood and you tap into a vulnerable position of humility, of actually speaking about things that you feel, then you are no longer a man. That's the thing. That's the thing, because it comes down to the wrong idea of what a man is. And I believe, Unako, that this wrong idea of manhood is something that has been for a very long time based on culture, based on media, based on perceptions that we have learned and picked up along the way. And I think even our uncles that that teach these kind of behaviors, zizindo that have been passed down. But right now, this is where we are. This is our situations. People are dying. This is people hurting. People are broken and people are breaking others. What do we do?
That's true. I'll share from the heart this one, this particular, because this is something that has been like ever since I dropped that piece. It's been lingering in my mind for so long. I got a DM the other day from some guy, man. I thought never to talk about it because I felt like it was personal, and this guy was just talking about his feelings and about how I should be careful about my words, and and it was. And
this is with regards to the piece.
Yeah, regards to the piece. Basically, this man like kind of feels offended in some. I don't know what was happening, but like I didn't pay much attention to it. But it, like later on, it really got to me, and I started thinking about it, because it's so hard to be humble. Humility in us, men, is so hard that even the truth, like, would rather be comforted with lies, than dealing with the raw truth. Because it seemed like to him, I'm just trying to get my way with the females, because you would come up with the notion, oh, this guy is trying to make himself better, and this guy is trying to, get the attention from the ladies. It's fine. I could allow you to think of that. But I began having a conversation with myself, and I thought my commitment to helping men, and my commitment to kind of providing a situation and a remedy to the problem that we're facing will never ever exceed their responsibility to open up.
Exactly.
My dedication to helping a man that is down, or anybody who's broken, will never exceed their responsibility to open up and receive. And this is what Jesus taught as well. He says, I think it's Revelation chapter 3 verse 20, he says, I stand at the door knocking. He he doesn't barge in, he doesn't force matters, he knocks, meaning he takes it upon himself to knock, but it then becomes your responsibility to open up. Meaning there's a level, sis Vuyo, where you gotta know, you gotta do your part and play your part, and then it's up to them to receive. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And yeah.
Absolutely, so true. You speak so well in when you mention, you know, this area of vulnerability, because I think that's the crux of the situation. The fact that men are not willing to be vulnerable, to be humble.
That's right.
And to understand,
that's right.
You know, that's the difficult way it is. And it all comes down, you know, to the fact that regardless of bana, we can have these conversations as much as we want, but it all comes down to that responsibility for that boy to heal, you know, for that young boy to now grow up, for that young boy to let go of those ideas and let go of those wrong perceptions. It's a matter of realizing the responsibility that needs to be taken. And it can never be a matter of ntobana women are making a lot of noise talking about bana sicela niyeke. It's also a situation whereby men need to realize that it's time to let go of the facade, because the truth is that we are all broken. And we keep on finding, you know, ways of escaping into excuses. We escape into different cocoons to just avoid breaking and healing, because we don't want to break into healing, right? We expect it's like we expect healing to come down from heaven, but it requires us to break. It requires us to be vulnerable.
That is so true. That's true. And you know, it's such a sad reality. You know, I remember like writing this piece. It was so difficult even for me, because you really and quickly realize that life is a bit hard. I say this as a joke sometimes to my siblings, but if you really think about it, it really is hard, because I believe, Mrs. Fuye, that life should never be about escaping your own life. You should never live this life every day and your life being about escaping every time. It really, I mean, I think that's the burden for me, to know that there are people out there who smile, and there are people out there who are charismatic, but they know as soon as they enter their closets, and not enough conversations are being had about our vulnerabilities, and I think that is why, I don't know, I might be wrong, I stand to be correct, that is why there aren't many men in churches as there are women and ladies, right? It's because really help, solutions, and I believe, I don't know if it still makes me a feminist, but like I believe that the solution transcends above the justice system. So I don't know, I'm entitled to that opinion, that the solution transcends above the justice system. Men need God.
Absolutely.
Men need their creator.
Absolutely.
Men need their father. Men need to be reconciled with their true natures. You understand? And until we learn to attend to that door, until we learn to trust Jesus on the other end, knocking into our hearts, that's when real change will occur. That's when real change will occur.
I wanted us to touch on, you know, this issue of spirituality, like the importance of spirituality in this conversation, because that's where it boils down to also the fact that we can acknowledge and admit, but the power to actually, you know, reconcile ourselves to our truest expression of who we are, it's highly dependent on, you know, our strength in our spirituality. And when we come back from the music, I want you to think along the lines, you know.
You tuned into Eminence, presented by with your host Violeta Sibani on Radio 537, your piece of rising ground.
4 o'clock. Welcome back to Eminence, your piece of rising ground with Violeta Sibani. This is Radio 537. And I'm so grateful for having you, and I'm so grateful for you to hang out with us up until now. We do this every Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 o'clock is the time that I am on the airwaves. And we did promise you guys that we'll be having those uncomfortable conversations. All those conversations that are necessary for healing, you will hear them on Radio 537, because this is the radio station that's dedicated to changing the narrative and bringing you fresh content and great music so that we can all transcend, in terms of our state as a mental, as a people, and just as a way of thinking and a way of doing things. We're having an interesting conversation with Unako Mohamet, a poet who recently put out a very intriguing poem that is titled To Men, and we are in conversation with him today. And we find that, with the concepts that he has touched on and dealt with in the poem, it pushes us to a place of needing healing. It's a place of all men actually need to come and respond to the call of their own healing. And we did play you just now a beautiful song by Loyiso Eti Madoda Sabelani, and it's a very, very beautiful rendition to the moment, because this is the exact the exact time and the exact moment where it's just so important for artists, it's so important for poets, it's so important for authors, and I believe all creatives in general to come to the play when it comes to these situations and actually speak openly about the things that are happening, because they are the voices that lead us to seeing sometimes a reality of the situation that is just going to help in us changing our own minds with regards to these situations. Unako, welcome back.
Hi, Cecile.
Yeah. So right before we took the musical break, you spoke a little bit about the importance of spirituality, the importance of our identity being defined by God as men, and you spoke about the importance of the role of the church in this situation. And you I think can even speak further with regards to that. As much as spirituality is important, and people and men need to realize their need for God, for them to be able to even have the power to change, because sometimes when Unako, we can realize that we need to change, we can realize that we need to adopt new ways of doing things, but sometimes habits esizaziyo like for instance, maybe another man is listening and he's saying to himself, but I am so addicted to porn, I don't know what to do, I don't know how self-control. It seems like into ekude for him now, because of ndikhule ngohlobo nditenda mdala ndangaka nditenda chata nochata mhlambi omnye yabona ndikule nto ndinjena, so I don't know how to change, I don't know what to do. What are the mechanisms, Unako, that you feel men can walk towards to with regards to healing?
Okay, this is one. Thank you so much for that. Before, like, I don't know if I'll do justice to the question itself, but I'd like to touch on the fact that, first of all, men need to realize that they need God.
Yes.
And they have to recognize that they are broken, and they have to recognize that, some nights are harder than most, right? And the thing is that the one thing that I'd like to touch on is the fact that so many people, and I mean, I'm not only I'm speaking out of things that I've heard, and people that I've sat with, and situations that I've been in and encountered, where people say, before we go to the person who actually realizes that they need this thing, let's talk about the people who have disregarded and neglected even the truth of the church, that they don't see church as the solution itself. You understand? And for my little bit that I'd like to share is the fact that, okay, I'll start with the encounters that I've had, where people say, I've been disappointed. I went to church and it wasn't what I expected. Exactly. I went to church and I looked up to somebody, but that somebody did exactly what I was doing behind closed doors. I mean, I see these Christian people. I see people who claim to be Christians, but are actually living like myself. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I think that's one of the most fundamental truths that we have to come, as a Christian community, that we have to deal with. That so many people are disappointed by people who claimed to love God and then later misrepresented Him.
Exactly.
So many people are broken. So many people are in pain because they were used. We see the regressive notions in South Africa around the church.
Exactly.
We see how the church has been perverted. We see all these things happening in front of us, and people think that's the Christian community as a whole. And the truth is that a car accident does not make us neglect cars. And I apologize to all people who were disappointed in church, who looked up to somebody and saw that they weren't what they were, who looked up to pastors and they got that misrepresentation. But the truth of the matter is that those mistakes don't speak to God. That's what the Bible says. We are like God. It doesn't say God is like us. That's what the Bible says. He cannot lie, but we have the ability in us to lie, but he doesn't. That is why, if anything, no man should look up to me, but I should only be a carriage to God. You know, every man, that's what fixing our eyes on Jesus, who is the author and the finisher, meaning he is the way to him. No man should focus on me because I've got my mishaps, I've got my mistakes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So first, and I think that's what we first need to realize and understand, that God is there for you, and God loves you. God wants you, you know, in the absence of people, in the absence of everybody, in the absence of the perversion going on in churches. He's looking for your heart.
Absolutely.
He's looking for your heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I think
another thing, sorry, sister, another thing is that not at any point should we ever feel obligated, or should we ever feel the need to be moral in order to go to church. You know, God does not want that constitution where we clean ourselves up before we go to him, where we fix ourselves up, where we where we try to mend our own wounds and our own past pains. I mean, he says, come as you are, and I will heal you. I will take away your burden. I will take care of you. I just want you as you are. And the thing is, so many people believe in that statement. People know that God wants them as they are, but God does not want them to remain as they are. See, the love of God is so, I don't know, it's so intelligent in the fact that he loves you so much to comfort you and to accept you as you are, but not at any time does he leave you and doesn't leave you as you are. So to all the people who are struggling, I'd say go to God. Don't focus on what you cannot do and where you fall short. Just go to him. Just go to him.
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely powerful and true, because I do believe, you know, that is an issue also, the issue of the representation of the church. You know, God has been misrepresented to the extent that, you know, it left people with no more hope, because it's important then to realize that, you know, the people of God, the people in the church, you know, they can only be, you know, people. But God is God, and there is two separate things. So it's important also that, you know, our approach to spirituality and our approach, you know, to healing is not only a matter of it's me looking at other people, because we need to realize that it's not about them. People can only can only walk and go so far, but it's God who can actually take you all the way, and it's that relationship with him, you know. And I want you also, you know, as bana sisters uivala session yethu bana ucho nako bana, you know, what are the important last things that you want to say, right? Of course, you have spoken already, you know, about solutions with regards to people, you know, going to God and actually, you know, but I just want you to flag a little bit on the issue when you say that there are certain concepts and certain, you know, mentalities that men are subjected to, that they hold on to. I just want you to speak and say that on behalf of women, you know, bana, you know, the fact that, you know, a woman is apparently, you know, objectified so much, you know, what then is the right mindset when men consider womanhood? What should they be thinking?
When women consider men, or when men
consider womanhood, right? Because I think the one it's something else that has been misrepresented, and it's something else that has had, you know, wrong definitions and ideas and connotations to it because of people's experiences. But I'm saying, but like, what is the correct way that men should actually, you know, be looking at womanhood?
All right. I think first of all, men should understand that women are not objects. And I think that's where we should start, that women are not objects. And that will never happen, Sisi, until we realize the people that we are, until men find themselves. I mean, because no perspective will change until the man himself changes. That's why this is not a mission to change how men look at things. This is a mission to change man himself, because the reason why men mishandle women and the reason why men abuse women is because they abuse themselves. Oh God. And I think that's where we should focus. That's the focal point, is that men don't treat women right because they can't treat themselves right. Men don't want women to be happy because they're not happy. Men put women in difficult positions. Men use women because they use themselves, and they're not happy. They aren't happy. There's so much insecure. Yo, man, if I go on, men are very insecure. Men are very insecure. Men are very inconsiderate. Men are dying, and I've been emphasizing this. So until the man himself changes, and I mean, Pastor Miles put it so perfectly when he says, God gave men responsibility first before He gave them Eve. God gave men work before He gave them women. So men who are not fixated in their purpose, men who are not fixated in what they should be doing, and then focusing on the life, on the calling of their lives and their reason for existence, they will always misuse women.
So it's also a lack of vision.
And then it becomes the responsibility of women to identify that if a man is not connected to his purpose, and if a man is not connected to God, then they are bound at some point, regardless of the romantic demeanor and the etiquette that comes with, you know, being perfect and being handsome. If a man does not recognize God, and if a man is not rooted, then it's bound to distract at some point. At some point.
Wow, man. Yes, guys, that's what we had for you today. And I'm pinching myself now, Bana. Why are you starting to mention something so interesting right when we are closing, you know, the conversation? But you know, more than anything, I do believe, you know, that, you know, this conversation was fruitful, and I do believe regardless of bana umdu feels some type of way about what you have written and what you have put out, I do think that there's still a lot to learn. And I think all of us, you know, need also to give ourselves grace in that manner. Yokbana, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's also a matter of progression. It's something that we need to walk towards. And this is the reason why we have these conversations in the first place, because it means that, you know, because before we didn't have a lot of men talking, and if we having more men talking, it means the healing has already started. It means that, you know, the process and the progress, you know, is there, even though it's slow. So it's not going to take overnight. So Unako, thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so much for sharing with us such a beautiful piece and such a well written piece of work. And thank you so much, you know, for being bold enough and courageous, you know, to express, you know, all those concepts and all those, you know, and all those things that are unspoken of, and all those deep things that, you know, evoke emotions in people, regardless, you know, of anything. Thank you so much, you know, for stretching your skill to that extent.
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Exactly.
Thank you for the opportunity to actually speak about these matters that are most ignored. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get used to this, because it's something that has to be instilled. It's something that has to be heard. So thank you for the opportunity.
Fresh content, discussions, and great music. This is Radio 537.